Hey guys, Dr. Frank here, founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs, and in today's brief video, I want to talk about a common myth that we often hear when it comes to quitting vaping, and that's that you're going to gain weight. And let me just put some truth behind this right now. That is 100% not true. Although it often occurs, it's not something that has to happen to you. And in today's video, we're going to talk about why people gain weight when they quit vaping, how weight gain actually occurs in the body, and some simple things that you can do to avoid gaining weight when you quit vaping or when you quit smoking or when you quit using nicotine. My name's Dr. Frank, founder of the Addiction Mindset recovery coaching programs, where we help people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and a whole host of other addictions. If you want more one-on-one help, feel free to call our offices below and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I put out a video day to help you quit. So in today's video, I want to start by discussing why do people start to crave sugar, or why do people start to gain weight when they quit smoking or when they quit vaping? Well, it's really simple. If we look at nicotine, nicotine is a substance, it's a drug, and it releases a neurotransmitter in our bodies called dopamine. Dopamine is that neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. It's also that neurotransmitter molecule that reinforces a behavior. So if you're used to chiefing on your vape all day long or smoking cigarettes or chewing tobacco, you've trained your brain to become used to this constant release of dopamine, this constant release of this neurotransmitter. So when you quit, your brain notices that it's lacking dopamine. It's lacking that feel-good neurotransmitter. And that's a problem. That's problematic for a lot of reasons. You start to feel depressed sometimes after you quit. You might start to feel a little decrease in energy. Your speech patterns might get a little funky. Your sleep patterns might get messed up. I mean, dopamine's involved in a lot of stuff. So your brain says, okay, where can I go get a readily available hit that's going to give me that dopamine source? And if you're not getting it from nicotine, your brain is probably going to lean to something that it knows, sugar. Now, sugar also happens to be highly addicting. Sugar also happens to release dopamine, and sugar also happens to be the main culprit behind weight gain. Now, when people think of sugar, we often just think of candy. We often just think of really, really sweet fruits, things that are really sweet, pop, soda, cereal, and that's not the case. All food that we eat, for the most part, is eventually converted into something called glucose in our bodies. Glucose is sugar. Now, our body converts food to sugar because we use sugar for energy. We use glucose for energy. Now, you can use fat for energy, you can use protein for energy too, but our bodies, our muscles and our brains use glucose for energy. So it's something, yes, that we need, but you don't need to be getting it from candy, and that's where we're going with this. So you quit vaping, you quit smoking, your brain is craving that dopamine release, and instead of going to do something like working out, going for a jog, spending time with someone that you love, spending time speaking to someone that you're in a relationship with, you go and you start to binge eat sugar because your brain knows that that sugar is going to give you dopamine. The problem is we now begin to enter the cycle of sugar addiction. Sugar has been shown to be equally as addictive as cocaine. If we give sugar to 9 out of 10 rats, if we give sugar to 10 rats and we also give them cocaine, 9 out of 10 of them are going to go back for the sugar versus the cocaine. Now, the problem with sugar and why it's so addicting is because every time we eat sugar, sugar turns into glucose. When glucose is released in our blood, our bloodstream, our blood sugar levels elevate. When this happens, our body releases something called insulin. Insulin takes this sugar and it jams it into our cells to get used as energy. Or when we have too much of it present, like if we're binge eating candy, cereal, pop, soda, just sugary foods, what's going to happen is that excess sugar is going to be stored as fat. Right? If you're not a marathon runner, you're not a bodybuilder, you're not Michael Phelps, you're not an elite athlete, you don't need that much glucose, you don't need that many carbohydrates. And a lot of athletes now are on the keto diet and they're not really consuming any starches. A lot of them out there, at least, are going even more that direction. So what happens, this excess sugar gets stored as fat. So we quit nicotine, we quit vaping, your brain craves dopamine, your brain recognizes that sugar can be a source of dopamine release. You then get these cravings for sugar, you start to binge on foods. The more sugar you eat, the more your blood sugar level rises. Your body starts to release insulin. Insulin then stores that excess sugar as fat. So the question becomes, wow, that sounds like a horrible cycle. And now maybe you wind up with a sugar addiction, which can lead to things like type 2 diabetes, which I would argue is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Type 2 diabetes or complications from type 2 diabetes, such as heart disease and other things like that. So it's like, geez, if we gave up smoking, that's great. If we gave up vaping, that's great. But it wasn't at the cost of our health. Remember, the main reason you're quitting smoking or the main reason you're quitting vaping is to become a healthier individual. And right now is the perfect time to take advantage of becoming a healthier person. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, it's pretty simple. When I first quit vaping, I dove head first into nutrition. I wanted to learn everything about it. Keto diets, vegan diets, pescatarian diets, paleo diets, OMED diets, 1 meal a day nutrition protocols, fasting. I wanted to learn everything I could to become a better version of what I already was. I wanted to take advantage and become a healthy person. So when people are quitting nicotine, often in our programs, what we'll encourage them to do is start to eat healthier. Now, we don't just say eat more fruits and vegetables. We all know that. How do you actually eat healthier? How do you actually control your weight? Well, we encourage people to stay away from foods like grains, starches, and sugars for the most part. So what types of foods do we encourage people to eat? Animal proteins, plant proteins, eggs, chicken, beef, fish, omega fatty acids found in nuts, seeds, legumes. We like nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter, macadamia nut butter. We like sunflower butter a lot here at my offices. We encourage people to stay away from all the breads, all the really, really heavy starchy foods. When we have people eating starches in our programs, usually we're focused on like sweet potato or oats, a slower digesting starch, which by the way, will still spike your blood sugar levels. But for many of you guys watching this, you're younger and type 2 diabetes probably isn't a concern for you right now. So we encourage a healthy regimen of eating, and we encourage people to eat 3 meals a day with no snacking in between. Snacking is that is weight gain city. Snacking is big trouble when it comes to gaining weight, especially when you're quitting a nicotine product. A lot of people will start to suck on hard candy or eat sugar when they give up an addiction, and every time they get a craving, they reach for sugar, which then just takes them down the rabbit hole of sugar addiction and sugar cravings. And often this results in weight gain. So some of our big don'ts when it comes to quitting nicotine and not gaining weight, we tell people, don't snack, don't snack, don't snack. Stick to well-rounded meals each day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, some of you guys might also be quitting weed. Some of you guys watching this might be suffering from Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. And you might be thinking to yourself, Dr. Frank, I don't eat in the morning. I can't eat 3 meals a day. That's not something that I like to do. Not a problem. Then you might be a candidate for fasting. Maybe just doing lunch and dinner. Maybe you do what I did in the beginning and you only do 1 meal a day. I had Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, so I couldn't eat without throwing up. I was quitting nicotine, weed, energy drinks, all that stuff at once, and I couldn't eat in the mornings. So I educated myself on something called the OMED, or the 1 meal a day diet. And I will say a little caveat here, and this doesn't apply to people who are anorexic or eating disorders. This is just your general individual trying to quit nicotine without gaining weight. For me, the fasting and the 1 to 2 small meals a day was incredible. I believe that played a huge role in detoxing all that junk from my body and helping me heal faster. I also loved, when I was fasting, not having the stress of having to worry about food. I also feel that fasting led me to another level of discipline. So I was able to control my nicotine cravings, then I was able to control my food cravings. Quitting for me was very much about getting back control, regaining discipline, becoming in charge of my life again. And I'll tell you, I think fasting played a huge role in the success of my recovery. So if you're watching this, I would encourage you guys, go get a book on intermittent fasting. Go get a book on the 1 meal a day diet. See what you think. Now, often when I'm working with people, we'll sit down with that individual and we'll design a one-on-one nutrition protocol for that person. Because the reality is everyone's going to be different. Some people are going to do real good with 3 large meals 3 times a day. Some people are going to do good with 1 large meal 1 time a day and 2 smaller meals. Some people might fast. Some people might be pescatarian, not eat red meat. Some might eat red meat. It doesn't matter. The fact is, I want you to start to pay attention to your nutrition, be conscious about the foods that you're eating, and think back to the beginning of this video where I talked about how weight gain works. Really focus on avoiding foods that are high in sugar, cereal, soda, pop, candy, and also focus on avoiding foods that seem suspiciously high in carbohydrates. There's a lot of yogurts on the market, a lot of cereals on the market, a lot of diet foods on the market that are put out there saying low fat, low calorie, but they're super high in sugar. And that stuff is going to make you gain more weight than eating healthy fats or healthy proteins would, even though healthy fats might be higher in calories for you. So start to pay attention to nutrition and start to focus on the foods that you're consuming, and I promise you, you won't gain weight. Now, if you let that binge eating, if you let that sugar addiction set in, you're going to have a really hard time not gaining weight when you're quitting smoking. But the reality is, when you quit using nicotine, when you quit smoking, when you quit vaping, you don't have to gain weight. You just have to understand how weight gain works, how weight loss works, and be prepared to navigate that. And that's exactly what this video was meant to do. I'm going to make a series of videos on this talking about different nutritional programs and different protocols that are specific in how we teach people how to eat. So stay tuned for those. And if you have Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome and you're throwing up in the morning and you can't eat, be sure to follow me on my next video, Recovering from CHS, where I talk about the nutrition. I'll see you there.